Hello, good afternoon. My name is Olabodayola, Master Student International Relations. I'll be talking of the origins and history of international relations. And this will cover how the history of international relations after the First World War, after the 20th century, which it is um, largely in the West and in the particular the United States, and as a country as a country of power and influence. And we can say the tragedy of First World War started in the 20th century, in the 20th centuries, and it encouraged early international relations thinkers to focus on ways to build more powerful world. And international relations can be traced to international intellectual roots as far back as the 5th century, and it has influenced many thinkers like Thomas Hobbes' view on anarchy, order, and the state of nature. And international relations' goal was simple: it's to herald a new world, a world that is free from menace of war. Because after 4 years of slaughter between the years of 1914 and 1918, Davis, like many others, he hoped that humanity had learned their lessons during the First World War, and this might actually be the war that ends all war. And since 1918, communities, states, and regions have been bloodied and destroyed by organized political violence. And understanding the causes and possible solutions to this violence, this remains one of international relations' main goals. And the growth has grown in the Western universities, and it is directly connected to the simple and terrible fact that the first half of the 20th century, the world experienced two devastating and protracted global conflicts. The First World War between 1914 and 1918, and the Second World War between 1939 and 1945. This was the cause tens of millions of lives, and the war led to revolutionary social change around the world and nearly eliminated the entire human population from the face of the earth. And this facilitated the rise of new great powers, and it led to the demise of others. And the attempt to make sense of these huge destructive wars has been at the heart of international relations since it first emerged at 1920. A philosopher, David Davis, when he founded the first Parliament academic post in international relations, he made it clear that the position was not to be used for vague theorizing, but it was to help scholars engage in practical thinking that would make the world a safer and more stable place. And many diplomats, politicians, and scholars at that time imagined that war could be made obsolete by mutually agreed rules of behavior and creation of intellectual organizations like the League of Nations. Instead, the treaties that ended the First World War settlement led to what E.H. Carr calls the 20 years crisis, which is a period of political, economic, and social unrest that spanned the interwars years between 1919 and 1939. Carl argues that the peace settlements of 1918 and 1919 contained the seeds of even greater conflicts. As the study of international relations grew in Europe and the Americas after 1920, it was able to draw on a much older tradition of Western political philosophy that stretches back to the 5th century. And these thinkers and writers are too many to describe, but in one way or the other, we can talk of Thomas Hobbes between 1588 and 1679, John Locke between 1632 and 1704, Karl Marx, which is generally known between 1818 and 1883. All these three have their ideas, and they have played their important role in shaping the subject of international relations and the history and all what's back it after the First World War. And like Thomas Hobbes, he lived during the violence and instability of the English Civil War, and which was the war that was fought between the supporters of King Charles II and the leaders of the Parliament, each of whom believed they should represent the higher power in the land. And over 9 years, the Civil War cost well over 100,000 lives out of the population of about 5 million. And Hobbes, he witnessed all this immense suffering of the people around him. And he claimed, during this period, he claimed that all human lives are relatively equal in their ability to harm and injure one another. And this means one might be stronger and one might be a little quicker, but even the strongest man must sleep, and even the quickest woman must eat and drink. And this makes all humans vulnerable to attack by another human. And in a world without a government to enforce order, the condition that Hobbes call the state of nature, which means that every human must be vigilant against threats to their survival. The second person I'll be talking about is John Locke, which is between 1632 and 1704. He lived in a generation after Hobbes, and Hobbes sees humans as essentially aggressive and greedy, but Locke thinks humans are in a state of nature that is more positive, and this means all humans have nature rights to life, liberty, and property. These rights predate the formation of government, so government must uphold them if they wish to remain legitimate in the eyes of their subjects. Uh, Another person I'll be talking about is Karl Marx, which was between 1818 and 1883. Karl Marx was born. Karl Marx was born over a century after the death of John Locke and coming of age during the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. He was interested in how the unequal distribution of wealth among factory workers and factory owners might impact on the political system of the day. Karl Marx interpreted the world through the lens of materialism, the belief that any understanding of political community must be based on physical and economic conditions in which the community exists. And economics is therefore the key that Karl Marx used to unlock his political analysis. So, in conclusion, I would say international relations emerged as academic discipline in the years following the First World War, and the study of international relations engages with classical philosophers like Hobbes, Locke, and Karl Marx because of their ideas, which teach us about the world we live in. Their theories highlight different aspects of international relations, and without their theories, we are limited to simple narrative explanations of what happened first, second, and then third. So, this concludes my presentation on the history and origin of international relations. Thank you.